one of the reasons why we have got so successful is because we do things differently. Like, we do really quirky things, and I guess you have to look at your business model and think, right, what are we? What would you describe yourself as? And one of the words I would say would be quirky. I'm not from money, so I just literally working hard. I didn't know what I was doing.
You didn't know what you were doing. You didn't know if it was going to work. You didn't have certainty. Why did you have the courage to quit kind of everything else and consistently commit to this?
Like, it's the journey, I think, because when you look back, it's never the end goal. I think what people sometimes think is, oh, I can't wait to be here in 5 years. For me, the end goal is happiness, I think, and I didn't realise at the time, but it is. If you're not happy with what you're doing, it doesn't need to be, oh, you failed, or you're not doing it right. It's just, at the end of the day, I've gained a lot from it. You will go through bad points, and that's that, but you just need to learn from it. If you can't get an answer, ring up again, like, keep going until you get basically what you want.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Success School podcast. It's me, Matt Hall, your host and compere, and thank you, as always, for being here, for listening, if you're listening on audio, or watching if you are watching over on YouTube. Today's episode, really, I wanted to get this guest on because from somebody who's obviously been running this podcast for a few years, as well as the Success School community, and as well as working with a lot of people on a one-to-one basis, I found that a lot of people really struggle with balancing the day-to-day life stuff and stresses. And, there's a lot of clients that I work with who are parents, and they find like they've got these goals, these ambitions, these businesses they want to build, these side hustles they want to start, but they find it just so overwhelming trying to do everything and trying to balance the day-to-day stuff, being a parent, trying to be the best they can for their partner, for themselves, and then also achieve these goals. And as I found this such a common thing, people know what they want and they get it, but they're like, Matt, in reality, things seem to happen every single week. Life throws us curveballs and obstacles, and then things just don't go to plan. And so I thought, what I want for this podcast is I want to get somebody on here who is a parent, who has had tremendous success with their business in a short period of time, so that we can listen to her story, we can learn from her, and maybe just learn a couple of the secrets, some of her tips, and just be inspired by her story that will hopefully help us all take the next step that enables us to keep moving forward, remain consistent, and keep making positive progress. So please allow me to introduce you to Hannah Butcher. Hannah is the founder and owner of the Houndville dog grooming and dog walking business. And this is a business that she only set up a few years ago, when we was in the dreaded times of 2020, when things were very, very uncertain, things were very difficult. And I think just hearing Hannah's story and her approach and her determination, her mindset, and how she really, in many ways, was against all the odds, but still, regardless, despite that, has managed to have a really successful business and be a parent and find time for herself, I think is super inspiring. So I really hope you find this valuable. Without further ado, this is Hannah Butcher. The reason I wanted you on this show is I'm very aware that a lot of people in our community are at a point where they're either starting out in business or maybe they want to start a business. And one of the biggest things they've got is they're super overwhelmed. Like, there's so many different things that they've got to focus on. And in particular, I can see we've got Nicola on watching tonight, who's a parent. And these are kind of the real challenges. Is like, it's not a case of they don't have big goals or they know the direction they want to go in. It's more the reality of living and breathing what it takes to achieve those goals is super challenging. So I know that you've got a really inspiring story. And we were just speaking a little bit before we started about how rapid things have grown for you. And I also just detected there that you're super bloody ambitious, because we spoke about the figures and how well it's doing. And kind of straight away, you're like, yeah, but I don't really see it as that good yet. Like, there's still so much more we can be doing. So I was like, okay, I'm getting a little insight into how Hannah's mind works. And that got me thinking about starting this interview. I want to kind of go back to, before we talk about the business and the story, I want to start with you, really. And I'm intrigued, like, have you always been super ambitious? Did you always want to sort of have businesses? What were you like sort of growing up?
Yeah, I already knew. I've always known I wanted a business, and I've always been ambitious, always been competitive, always been ambitious. I'll be honest, I've always struggled to work for somebody. I've been self-employed since I was 19. I remember having one job about 2 years ago, and I was there for 6 weeks. Yeah, it was just, I think I'm very strong-headed, I'm very strong-minded, and I've always known what I wanted. And yeah, so yeah, to be honest.
I feel like that's a common theme for a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners, is they're just not employable. Like, we can't work for anybody else. So it's like, we've got no choice. But that said, it is super challenging. Like, it's super hard work. Where do you feel that ambition came from, and that desire to work alone? Like, was the influences, inspirations at a young age?
I'm not too sure, to be fair. Ever since I was little, I've always danced. And I think so from at that point, I've always been competitive. And my dad, he used to run for Yorkshire, like he was really athletic. And so I think the competition from that has stemmed from him. So me being competitive as from dancing has grown and grown and grown. And then, yeah, I mean, I used to work for an agency when I used to dance. And then after that, I literally traveled the world as a dancer. And so I was kind of working for someone, but at the same time, I wasn't. I was also freelance. So yeah, it's just, I think I've just grown into doing my own thing, and learning on my own how to manage like your banks or your tax, or learning how to do everything your own. Whereas when you do kind of work with someone, everything gets done for you. So all your payroll tends to get done, I think. And then it's nice because you can, in most jobs, I guess you can leave at 5 or whatever your times are, and then you don't have to think about work, but obviously depending on what job career you're in. But yeah, I mean, I guess I've just kind of learned how to do everything on my own. So yeah, I think that's it really. And then yeah, just enjoyed it. I've just enjoyed doing it on my own and the progression of it. I think it's just the challenge. Like, it's the journey, I think, because when you look back, it's never the end goal. I think what people sometimes think is, oh, I can't wait to be here in 5 years, and this is where I'm going to be, and I'm going to have this nice car. But it's not that. When you actually look back, it is the journey. You think it's either a rubbish one or a great one, and it's the journey that you should be on realistically. So you've got to enjoy it, you know.
Is that something you've learned kind of recently, or did you always know I've just got to enjoy the journey? Because I think, and I'll kind of admit myself, I think because I started out as a performer and as an actor, and I think it's just so competitive, and we do put the outcome on a pedestal. Like, when I get that television role, or when I'm in that show, and I think it's very much like bred into us in a young age. If you start out in that industry, it's so competitive.
Yeah.
We are constantly looking at what's the next role, the next audition, the next agent, the next job. We're putting everything on outcome, outcome, outcome. For me, it was only later in life when I started thinking, do you know what? I'm actually stressed out. I'm exhausted. I'm unhappy. I'm burnt out. Yeah. And started focusing on personal development, that I came to the conclusion that you're suggesting, that actually the outcome is the least important thing. It's how you feel day to day. It's how every experience is right now. Did you learn that similar to me the hard way, or was that just sort of something you always had about you?
Yeah, I think it's the hard way, definitely. I don't think you can tell anyone. I think you can tell someone that, but they've always got to learn it. I mean, it's so strange. I always remember being 19 and I was in like a circus back then, but it was like we was in Mallorca, so where I lived, and I always remember working with this dancer, and she was 30-year-old, and I was 19, and I was on a higher wage than her. And I always remember thinking, I do not want to be you at 30. Like, I do not want to be in your position. I want like a big house, and I think what most people want at a young age, and think what, want this and want that. So I think once I did go self-employed, after working for an agency, and I just ended up working on, just getting my own business, and I was like, right, I'm going to do it myself. I think I'm just one of these sort of people that when I get an idea, I will do it. And, if I'm passionate about it, I will follow through with it, and I won't give up. So, yeah, but then obviously come years later, and then I don't do events anymore. So I've looked back on my journey and I think, well, it's the journey, isn't it? So the journey I think about, and I think, it's been good, it's been bad, it's never the end result really. So, but yeah, definitely learned that the hard way.
Well, that's just got me thinking, because you're so right. Like, you can tell someone that, but it's like they need to go through the experience. And I guess it's that emotional connection. It's only when you felt kind of, whether it be misery, despair, unfulfillment, that you actually start to learn, okay, these are the wrong metrics that we're following. It's not about the big house, the flashy watch, the car, the nice car. I mean, a lot of people know my story. I had a coach that was about all that sort of stuff and was very much about materialistic gain and things like that. And I think sometimes you've got to chase that shit to realize that's not what this is all about. And it's interesting to hear the same point being emphasized again by somebody who's doing great on the outside, but what she's telling us here is that's not really the important thing. It's how do I feel on the inside? What's the journey? And seeing the positives in the journey. So I know that the Houndville is your baby. That's your business. That is coming up to almost 3 years since, which is mad, because 3 years ago, we was just about to enter a pandemic. Anybody starting a business, especially like a bricks and mortar business, when you're dealing with people, anybody thinking you'd be here on a podcast say this is a success story, but like, no, that isn't.
Crazy. I think lockdown either made you or broke you, didn't it?
Yeah, right. Okay. And obviously for you, it was a great, you've got a great outcome. I'm interested, 3 years ago, the business didn't really exist. Where were you at that point? I know you said about having an events company. I know now you've got a son who is 18 months. You've now got a daughter who is 4 years old. So obviously you had your daughter at that stage. Where were you at in your life at that point?
So yeah, I did have an events company, and then my little girl was born. And then I just really struggled. I just remember thinking, I think a few years before that, I did want to work with dogs. I think anyone that has a dog automatically thinks, oh, I'd love to work with dogs. I don't know, until you work with dogs and then you don't like dogs. But yeah, that's another story.
I was going to say, the other thing you hear people say is never work with children or animals. That's the other thing.
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, I had my little girl, and then I just remember really struggling. I really struggled with balancing, especially when they're so young and you've got them full time. It was really hard, and on a night you're tired, especially if it's your first child and you don't know what you're doing or how you're going to feel, and your emotions are all over. And it was really difficult. I remember sorting all different contracts out, and then staff wouldn't turn up to jobs, and I was always working weekends, and I just remember I hated it, and I thought, why am I working weekends? Like, life is way too short to not have this time, or not do things as a family or whatever. And I don't know, I kind of were like getting sick of it. And it got to about 6 months in, when my little girl was 6 months old, And I was just like, I just don't want to do it anymore. I started taking jobs, stopped taking jobs on. I remember it was like June time, and I thought, right, I'll take a couple of jobs on now until December, and then I'll sell my business. So I remember selling all my assets, so everything like my photo booth that I had, all my costumes. I just sold everything. And then I was like, right, you know, I'm ready to do what I wanted to do, and that was work with dogs. I just wanted to take a plunge and thought, you know, let's go for it, basically. And that's what I did. I just remember buying this van, like I said to you, buying this van, and it was about £700. I went with my partner, we went and bought it in Blackpool, and I remember having caging in it, which was worth way more than the van. And then I just did all these courses online, and at the same time I took on this shop and I started renovating it. And and then I started doing my grooming course offering Clifford. So I was balancing so many things. And at that point, my little girl had just turned 1. So it was hard to balance it. It was like she was at nursery, so I knew she was in good care. Then at that point, I just had to take as many hours as I could to do the things that I needed to do. And then obviously, if she was at a nan's house, or you know, on a night sleeping over, I would be there till about 2 a.m. renovating it. I think it's easy when you've got a lot of money, but when I've not come from a background that's ever, you know, my mum and dad was always just standard working. My mum was a cleaner, and she still is now. And I mean, unfortunately, my dad's passed away now, but my dad was always, he used to work ridiculous hours, but it was always like just standard job. You know, we just had a normal house. It wasn't anything special. So I mean, I'm not come from money, so I just literally working hard. I didn't know what I was doing. But it was, you know, at the same time, it's exciting. It's like taking on this new challenge. I'm absolutely buzzed about, like, let's do it. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know how I'm going to find the money to do it. I'm just going to do it. And I did, So just remember, like, any minute I had, I was just on my phone trying to sort this out and get someone into the shop, or I'd be there. And looking back at it now, it was a buzz, but at the time it was just so stressful. But it seems to me, I think in life as well, everything comes at once. So that amount of chaos was all at once. And then I just remember when I took on my salon, opened it in January 2020, my first one, everything started getting structured and organized, and it was a lot nicer. So if anyone's obviously got a bit of a crazy business or going through a crazy time, I think sometimes you just got to take it by the horns, is that the phrase? Like, and just grab it, and then knowing you're gonna go past that chaos, and then it will calm down, it will get more organized. But sometimes that it just happens, doesn't it? So the
interesting thing that came to my mind listening to you speak is this concept of having a 1-year-old daughter, renovating properties.
I think you've got to be crazy. You just got to be crazy.
Is that the answer then? I'm just mad. But I'm thinking because like they're really, really stressful full-time jobs, both of them. But then you're also studying to get other qualifications, and you're buying vans and starting a business. And anybody, whether you've done it or not, we can guess that's going to be really, really stressful, emotionally, mentally draining. And what you've said there is you didn't know what you were doing. You didn't know if it was going to work. You didn't have certainty. And the reason I want to hone in on this point really today is what you're talking about there is what I hear, you know, many clients and many members in this community, they're at that point where they're about to take the leap, but because they know it's going to be a lot of work, because they don't have certainty, and because it's going to take time, and you've got to consistently keep going, basically with blind faith. And as you said, without the resources of loads of money and being born into wealth or anything like that, they just kind of start and stop and start and stop. And most of them end up never truly committing to it because it's too bloody hard. They're too bloody tired. They need to put tea on the table for their children.
Yeah.
What was different for you? Why did you have the courage to quit kind of everything else and consistently commit to this, even working at 2 a.m. if you needed to, and presumably surviving on very little sleep?
I think I've always been like that. You know, I've always gone for it. Everything. I've taken on events, you know, and I've just done it. And I think I just thrive off it. And it's great. I think, again, it is the journey, you know, just pick it up and do it. It's exciting. I mean, at the end of the day, you're either it's not about winning or losing, is it? But you're gonna either achieve it or you're not. You're not. What you're gonna lose by not going for it? And I think that's just how everyone should feel, really. You know, what are you actually going to lose going for it? And I think you would learn more by making them mistakes and losing, and then you pick it up and do it again. I mean, at the end of the day, this is my second business. So I've had an events company before, which when I started that and I learned absolutely nothing, I knew nothing about. I literally bought a photo booth and I was like, right, I don't even know how to set it up. I brought it home. I don't know how to set it up. I put it in the back of my A class, which I had at the time, and it wouldn't fit in my boot. I remember strapping my boot down from Birmingham, and I was just like, I'm going to find out how to do it. And then, you know, I just did it, and I learned a lot from that business that I carried on with me to this one. And yeah, it's just about learning, isn't it? And making them mistakes and learning. And I think what you've got to do, especially if you've got children, you've got to do something for yourself. And not only that, you got to think about the future. And do you want to be doing the same position every day? You know, what do you want to be going into a job and hating it? Do you want to be unhappy where you are? I mean, for me, the end goal is happiness, I think. And I didn't realize at the time, but it is, if you're not happy with what you're doing, you know, I mean, it might come to a point where I'm not happy with this business, or I think, right, I've had enough, kind of, I'm just going to pick it up, I'm going to sell it, and I'm going to move on to the next chapter in my life. And that's it, really. It doesn't need to be, oh, you failed, or, you know, you're not doing it right. It's just, at the end of the day, I've gained a lot from it. And, you know, like I did my last business, and yeah, you just go for it. But you've got to have courage, because you're going to sit there in 10 years and say, you know, I'll regret it.
And I think regret's the worst thing. Personally, I think it's the worst thing you can have. I think that what you've identified there is it's all about mindset. It's all about the perception, what you value. So I think the reason most people never have that courage is because they value comfort and certainty. What I'm hearing from you is you value experience, you value learning, you value growth, you value improvement more than you do comfort and certainty. And that's something I would urge anyone listening to reevaluate. You know, you've got to kind of look at it and go, what will I regret more? Will I regret everything going horribly wrong, failing, and learning so much that I then succeed in 5 years' time? Or just playing it safe, having a level of certainty and comfort for the next 10 years, but never truly feeling I progressed and I truly learned and I truly grew and ultimately truly started to do things that bring deep fulfillment and fulfill my potential. So I think, you know, what you're saying there, Hannah, like, it's just a great example of where it's about the mindset. And it's just evident for me listening to you that your mindset is, what's the worst that could happen? The worst that could happen is I will learn, oh shit, that didn't work. Now I know not to do that again.
I think for me, it's always been, I'm not going to fail. And that's that. Like, I have no other option. And, you know, I'm gonna win at this. And that's that. That's the end of it.
So do you think you always had that level of self-belief? It's kind of like, whatever happens, I back me. I know I'll make it work and I'll figure it out.
Yeah, especially at the beginning. you know, it's like you're entering something new and you don't know what you're entering. I guess there's a lot of people that's nervous. I mean, you do get like nervous about situations, but I mean, I'm sure everyone's been in a position where they've entered something or they've done something and they're like, I'm going to do this. Like, this is easy. Like, it's no problem. And then you get along the journey and you might think, right, shit, basically, what have I done? And yeah, there's been a lot of times, like a lot of times where I've gone, what have I done? Why have I done this? Shall I just pack it in now? Shall I give up? And I'm just saying no. And I think, if I'm honest with you, as silly and as naive as it sounds, if maybe a lot of it was my ego and it was more like, nah, I'm not giving in. There's not a chance I am failing this. You know, it's going to be done and I'm going to get this project done and it's going to be amazing. And that's that. And I think at that point, you're either going to make it, you're going to make yourself, or you're going to break. And you've got to be positive, and you really have. And you've got to think, you've got to automatically think about it and just not even have that negative thought of not doing it. I don't know if anyone's renovated a house, but I never have, so I don't know, but I've renovated 2 salons, and at the beginning it's always, can't wait, I'm so excited, you get the keys, you start doing this, and then it's the middle ground, you're like, oh no, like I've got to pay this and these business rates, and like I've got £200 left in my budget, like what am I going to do, where am I going to get the money from? And yeah, I guess it is hard, it's hard at that point. But you find a way. You will always find a way if you want to do it. Like there's no there's no reason you can't. But I guess it boils down to how passionate you are about it. You know, and don't just go into a business that you're not going to enjoy because you're not going to do it. It's that simple. You just won't end up doing it. If you're not happy, you'll just think, oh, I can't be bothered. Which is fine, it's normal, you know, don't do anything you're not happy to do, but if you are passionate, you'll always find that inner strength to think, yeah, I'm going to definitely find this way. So
I think that's one thing that's evident with you. Again, you're passionate about what you do. And so I'm glad you highlighted that point, because again, if business isn't for the faint-hearted. There are going to be tough times. And if you don't, at the heart of it, actually bloody want it, then please don't even start. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've got to genuinely love what you do and be passionate about seeing it grow, seeing it progress.
For sure. Please, if you're not, sometimes I think I wish I would have just had a 9 to 5 and that's that, and just gone home and not been stressed. And you know, it's not easy. There's been a lot of nights where I couldn't wait to put the kids in bed just so I could work. And for me, obviously we'll maybe go on to speak about that, but it has been sad, and it's been sad, and you think, shall I just give it all up? But there's a lot of the days and you think, oh, this is amazing, like I'm so glad I do it, and it's great to teach your kids, and you think, teach them to do what they want to do and makes them happy, you know. And so yeah, there's been, yeah, so I guess it goes out to passion, because if you wasn't, then there's just no point really. It's just easier just to go get a job, I think.
Okay, let's talk about success in business. Let's get some secrets. Let's get some tips. First and foremost, you said you started out there, you know, you didn't have loads of money. You didn't really know what was going to happen, if it was going to work. You just had passion and the willingness to give it everything and try. Talk to me about marketing. Like, when you first started, when you take yourself back there to 3 years ago, what were the things you did to get customers, and what was the most effective ways that obviously you grew your customer base relatively quick, based on the fact we're looking at a backdrop that was a pandemic, a really uncertain time, but you still managed to grow? What were kind of the key things you would attribute that to?
So when I started, it was probably around this time 3 years ago, but I only started with the dog walking. And with the events company, I used to just, I've worked in dance and events for all my life, so I kind of knew all about that, but I knew what to post and things like that. But obviously when I set up working with dogs, I wasn't an expert on social media. I wasn't an expert with marketing. So I just kind of Googled little things. I remember just putting the weirdest stuff on Facebook. Like it was like this chart of these dogs. And yeah, I don't know, it was a load of rubbish anyway, but I managed to get customers. You know, I used to spend all night, some nights, inviting people to like my page and asking people to share it. And, you know, every minute of the day I had the chance to do, I was researching, you know, and I was looking at other people's pages and looking at other dog walking companies and what are they doing and what can I do. And I just remember, like, obviously having a couple of customers and dogs to walk. And then I guess from there it was recommendation. So people obviously liked what I did. And I always knew I wanted to be different. And I knew I had a little bit of a plan with working with dogs, and I knew I wanted to do it like this and like this. And I'm very creative. So I just had these wacky ideas. And then, yeah, we started doing them. I was running the social media and stuff like that.
What were some of the wacky ideas? Give me some examples.
I don't know, we still do stuff like this. Like we do report cards for dogs. So we do, I'm guessing one of the reasons why we have got so successful is because we do things differently. Like we do really quirky things. And I guess you have to look at your business model and think, right, what are we? What would you describe yourself as? And one of the words I would say would be quirky. We do like report cards for dogs, so we hand them out and drop them off at people's houses. And it's the thought process, I guess. You've got to put yourself in the customer's shoes and think, what would they like from me if I was their customer? What would they want? And yeah, it was little things like that. And we used to just deliver like little doggy chocolates to them, and we were doing all kinds of stuff.
So I love that. So you've got thinking outside the box, kind of doing something different, in your case, quirky. You've also got over delivering, like surprising your audience, things like the extra treats and things, giving them more than maybe other companies were doing, and kind of going above and beyond. Because that's always, I think, the thing that's going to be more memorable and then create that word of mouth. The other thing I'm hearing about marketing is you didn't start with this huge marketing budget doing like Google AdWords and big banners and posters. You just literally used social media for free. Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah. Now, you know, I've got an in-house creative director, which is amazing. She's been with us a year now. So she started with us 2 years in, and she just does absolutely everything for us. I remember I moved up from me doing it, and I just took someone on who did social media, and she did it like a couple of posts a day. And yeah, she was good. She was good for what I needed at the time. I still speak to her now, to be honest, but she was great. And yeah, it's about it really. We got a website built and that kind of thing, and then I just left it in the hands of a professional. Which I will say, best way to grow your business is to give the best. If you know, at the end of the day, if you're a person and you're trying to do everything, it's not going to run right. You've got to give it in the hands of professionals to do that job. And I know a lot of people say, oh, I don't have the money, or it's going to cost me an extra £600. But that's £600 bringing you in £4,000 worth of customers, then you need to go out and spend that £600, because otherwise you're not going to expand and your business isn't going to grow.
But again, that needs faith and courage.
Yeah,
and again, that's such a big thing for people to do when they're starting out as we call it, that quote unquote one-man band, to take it from that place in business to then hiring people where you've got to pay their wages, whether the business comes in or not, is a huge risk for a lot of people. What was the point in which you took that risk? Like, what's the indicators, I guess, to go, right, now we're at that point where we have to go and get somebody else?
Me just looking at what I was doing and thinking it's ridiculous, to be honest. You know, and looking at other people, what the services they offered, and I knew that that's what I needed. And obviously, like I say, I had an events company before that. And I used to do a lot of networking. So networking is great. I met a lot of people. And they always used to come to me and say, if you need any social media, you need marketing. And I was just thinking, yeah, like, I'm not paying that. That's ridiculous. And doing it yourself. But I did remember using a marketing company when I had an events company, and they did do a bad job in the end. But the guy who was running it first, it was fantastic, and it worked. I came to this agreement with him, and he said, if I can get you these many customers and I do this for you, let's see how we get on. And I tried it, and it was great. It worked. There was running these ads and things like that. And yeah, I mean, it is difficult. You do have to prepare to learn, because if you don't, it's like you going into a company that's doing SEO for you and you're not having a clue about it, but they're ripping you off. You've got to have that, not base learning, but you've got to prepare to learn everything, even the basic knowledge. And to be honest, a lot of that's come from just networking with people, asking them questions and speaking, and that kind of thing, really. But no, it was good when I opened the salon in January, and I was grooming full time. And this girl, she was only cheap. She was only like £200 a month. And she said, I'm half price for the fit. I'll do it for half price first month. And she did. I was like, what's £100 really? What's it going to do? If it's going to make me more money, and triple my customers, then fantastic. And to be fair, it did. She did really well. So yeah, just kind of like left that to her, focused on what my priority was, what I was good at, and left what other people was good at, what I couldn't do. And that's how I just started to grow.
I love this, because it's about putting yourself in that kind of proactive mindset, not just going, oh, I don't have the resources, I don't know the people, I don't know the information. It's about going, where do I find the information? How do I learn it? What are the places I need to get to, and the people I need to get around to ask the questions to learn this? And I really want to just kind of highlight that point on this chat now. If you are somebody in business right now that's feeling like, oh, but I wouldn't know where to start, and what even is SEO? Like right now, go to Google it. It'll tell you it's search engine optimization, right? What does that mean? Google. So like I think sometimes because we've got access to so much, we get overwhelmed and we forget how privileged we are right now with things like the internet. There's so many networking events you could book in your diary right now. There's so many free things. There's so many low paying things you can go to, but it just needs a little bit of time and a little bit of focus, really. And I know that's another big thing, for a lot of people, they say, especially parents, and I totally understand it, is I just don't have the time. I just don't have the money. They're two of the biggest things.
Yeah.
They feel like they need to give the time to their children. They need to give any spare money they have to the children. Otherwise, they're bad parents. What would be your sort of thoughts on that way of thinking?
Oh, do you know what? Well, I'll go from that beginning of that topic. And my highest recommendation would always be network. I think a lot of the way, even like from computer servers or anything like that, I've met a lot, and I've always gone, I know who to ring on that, I know who to ask, pick my phone up, and I've built relationships up, and it's been absolutely fantastic for me, that. And even at the beginning when at the events company, I've built a lot of relationships up, and I know like great electricians, and I know that they do a good job, and and they pass work my way too, and it's always built up. And then, sorry, Matt, what was your second question?
Just with regards to maybe feeling guilty about not any spare time or money not going towards their children, getting that balance right, and sort of your take on that.
I mean, I once read this it might have been something similar to a podcast. I think she was on telly. And I always remember this story being so inspiring and thinking, God, if this woman can do it, anyone definitely can. And this woman, she was a single mom, and I think her little boy was 3, and she lived in a flat. Not too sure whereabouts she lived. I don't know. I think it was America, to be fair. And she lived in this flat, and it was a house share. And she shared obviously the bedroom and stuff with a little boy. and she had a full-time job, and on the side she had like a little business. And what she did every night, so she'd come home and she wouldn't waste money on like McDonald's or anything like that. She'd always try to save as much as possible on the unnecessary things she didn't need to buy. So she'd be buying like his tea every night and cooking it from scratch. And, you know, and she said on a show, I always remember him saying all the time, when can I have a McDonald's? When can I have a McDonald's? When can I have a McDonald's? And she saved all a wage, every month a wage, and she literally lived off the money she made from a business, like a little small business she did on a night when he was asleep. And what she did was she sent a wage slip to the bank every single month and put on the envelope, I think it was my dream, like to my dream. And she did that for so many years. I think the bank never seen her, and what she said, she went to the bank after like 3 years and there was about 56,000 there, and the bank just said, oh my gosh, like, you're the woman that keeps posting these in saying you are my, this is my funding for my dream. And it just got me, because a little boy just turned around and said, you know, can we have a McDonald's now? So, you know, because she was ready then to invest. And I just don't think there's an excuse for it. There really isn't. And I think you either want to live that luxury life, which a lot of people do live just for the sake of what other people think of them. And that's obviously the industry we live in now, isn't it? Like, it's, I've got a nice car, but do you actually like that car? Or is it because, you know, everybody else is getting that car, or you've got to have this massive house with you paying a mortgage of ridiculous money? And, you know, it's one of those questions really, but you definitely can do it if you want to. It's not, you know, don't feel guilty about it. You've got to think about the future, and especially if you've got any plans in place, you've just got to look at them and think, you know, this is what I want to do. Don't care what anyone else thinks. It's about what makes your child happy. And to be honest, time does, but you don't need to be spending ridiculous money. And sometimes you do have to just give that bit up. You know, you might have to give up spending full time with them for the future, so that in 5 years' time, you know, they've got a house in their savings, or they've got this for their future. And yeah, you don't feel guilty every time you drop them off at nursery. You've got to think, oh, I'm doing this for them.
About that short-term sacrifice, isn't it? And thinking,
yeah,
you know, like she said there, she ended up with over £50,000. Every time her son wanted that McDonald's, that then added up to be like, you can get a lot more than McDonald's now. Like, we've got the money now, you know, to have a better future. I think, again, it comes back to comfort. It comes back to people are not willing to make those sacrifices. They're not willing to make the hard decisions now so they can have a better tomorrow, kind of thing. What about some of the hardest points? Like, did you ever really struggle mentally and emotionally? And was there ever times you wanted to quit?
Oh God, yeah, so many. So many. Even in 3 years already, it has been really hard. I mean, if I'm honest with you, the last couple of months has been probably the hardest 3 months I've had in business, and the whole time I've ever had a business. You know, I've had a quite high staff turnover in the last couple of months, which has never happened in the whole 3 years. I ended up having to move a premises from the one I originally had, which I invested just under £20,000 into, due to like a conflict with the landlord and having a rat problem there. It was just a nightmare, and it got to the point where, you know, yeah, it was hard. I took a break on my lease, and he ended up changing the locks on it, because technically we wasn't allowed in there due to insurance reasons. It was ridiculous. But yeah, the girl, it basically said, you know, until we've got a new lease, you can't go in. And at that point, I had 3 members of staff not really having a job. You know, they had no premises, full equipment in there. And it was like, you know, what can we do? And he wouldn't let us in until we'd got a new lease written up, basically. So I'd moved my staff down to the other salon in Brighouse, and I had 6 members of staff working there and making only just enough just to cover them. Some days I didn't even cover like the wages. It was really hard, and it got to like a week on, and then I was like, how long now? And he said he's been off sick, my solicitor, it'll be done in the next couple of days. And to be honest, he did want us in as much as I wanted to be in, but it got to 2 weeks, and I was like, right, we either fully close down or I just find premises. And it was weird. I just kind of made that decision on the Wednesday, and I said, right, that's it. I'm moving premises. And I found a premises the next day. And I remember speaking to the landlord where we are now. And I said, look, I'm happy to take it on. I need it before Saturday. So this was in 2 days. I said, I need this property before Saturday. And she just said, yeah, like, let's go for it. And, I'm quite bad like this. And I do teach my staff this, and I say, if you can't get an answer, ring up again, like keep going until you get basically what you want. And that's what I did. I was just ringing the estate agents. I think they were sick of me, but I was like, and I got it. I got what I wanted, and I'm still renovating that now. It's nearly done, but it's taken a bit of time over the last 2 months. And yeah, we basically took it on. It was an old woman's hair salon, and it turned it into a groomer. So it's getting there. And all I cared about, to be honest, at that time was my staff. And I just thought, make a decision. I made the decision. I made a run for it, and I don't regret it. It's like you either pick it up and you run with it, or you just drop it. You've just sometimes got to make that decision then and there, and that's just it, really.
What about you? Because I know business has got, like, as we say in there, it can be really, really hard. I know you've got 11 staff members now. You've got all these pressures of, keeping them employed and making sure customers are happy. And you've just said there, the last few months have been some of the toughest in business. So how do you protect your mental health? Do you have anything like self-care kind of routines, habits, things to make sure? Because ultimately, if you're not good, everything falls down.
Yeah. I mean, it's been hard. It has been hard. I don't know, like there's some nights I've just not been able to sleep, like get up every hour, and it is. But you will go through some stages in business, and it's like, oh God, and I'm only just, apart from that stage in my life, the last couple of months, it is good to have that work-life balance, which now the salon's almost renovated. I'm literally getting it back. I've had, how many people I've had to recruit? I've had like 4 or 5 people to recruit on top of that. It's been chaotic, but I've had, you've just got to get on with it. You just wake up, you get on with it, you set yourself a plan, you work, you've got to work, and then that's that. But then now I've gone through that bad patch. It's all about putting certain things in place for that to never happen again. And again, I've learned from that. And you've got to get home on a night. And now I'm at that point where I can get home at 5 and think it's about the kids. And then after that, it's about me. And
what's interesting, I think, is one of the reasons I really wanted to bring you on this podcast is to be able to ask you, as somebody who is a mother of 2 very young children and also has built a successful company in a short space of time, is to ask you, how do you balance all of that and do it all well? And I think the conclusion that I'm getting is you need to be comfortable with not having balance for a period of time. And that's the key. There is no balance when you're trying to be a great parent and a great business owner. It's about understanding something I speak about a lot. Understand the season you're in. And maybe the season you're in right now is we don't get as much sleep, unfortunately. We may be not as present as we want to be, unfortunately. But as long as we're surrounded with the right support, like you said, networking, we're passionate about what we do, we believe in ourselves, and we've got a vision and a goal, this is not the forever This is just part of the journey. It's one season. And if you can have the courage to see it through, then we can start to look at balance. That's the conclusion I'm getting. Am I right, or am I totally wrong?
Yeah, I mean, in some aspects, I mean, obviously I don't recommend to be like that, but you will go through it. You will go through bad points, and that's that, but you just need to learn from it. And I think if I can recommend anything, I really struggle, I think, because if there is anything bad or anything going on, I have to deal with it then and there. And maybe I guess that's one of the reasons why I guess in some ways I am successful, because I've dealt with it straight away instead of thinking, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, or, but in some ways I look back and I think, should I have just put my laptop down and, done a bit of gym, or done, a bit of reading. And I used to read quite a lot, to be honest, and a lot of podcasts and things like that actually help. Even if you still want to switch on business and you can't fully switch off, maybe just stop thinking about that work that's stressing you out for a while and focus on something that's going to inspire you. And that did help me, like inspiration and watching inspiring people on my Instagram or inspiring people. And I used to think, and that helped. So yeah, I guess tomorrow is a good day. And one thing I did used to do, and what I still do, is on a night I write a list and I go, right, this is what I'm doing tomorrow. This is what time I'm gonna. And I know it sounds silly, but I used to set myself timers. So if it was like getting the kids ready in the morning or getting me ready, it would be like, right, 7 o'clock till 8 o'clock, timer on, go, let's do it. Then I'd know at 8 o'clock, they're in the car, I've come back in and I set myself 5 minutes to do this and then back in. And I don't know, I used to just set myself these little times, because time is important and you've got to be very structured with that. And I think, I'm very structured with my time. I know what time I'm getting out the house. I know what time I'm going to be there for, and that is important. And little tasks on a night, when I used to just write down, I'm here tomorrow at this time, I'm doing this. And I used to just tick it off. Because I think what a lot of people do is have it in your brain, and that just clogs your brain up and you can't even think straight the next day because you've got 1,000 things on your head. But if you write it down, you don't even have to keep it in your head then. And that's how...
I love how you started that sentence with, I know this sounds silly, and you literally then went on to say exactly what I do and what I encourage others to do. It literally... for the reasons you said. Otherwise, your brain's just overwhelmed with over 100 things to do. I don't know when or how long. Actually taking the time to think about it, write it down, and give yourself specific timeframes immediately relieves pressure and overwhelm. So it's just so lovely hearing that it is those recurring lessons, those recurring foundations that we speak about on this podcast all the time. They bloody work. I always say, look after the basics look after you. I always say the things we talk about, the things we teach work if you do the work. Like, it's no good just listening to Hannah and going, oh, that time thing sounds good, and then not setting your schedule for tomorrow. You've got to be, have that discipline to consistently work at it. Hannah, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. I've just got the last couple of questions before we finish, and if we've got time for a Q&A as well for the members, that would be amazing. One of the things before we started recording, as I said earlier, is we spoke about sort of, financially, you're at that point where you've gone from zero just less than 3 years ago, and now we're doing in the region of £350,000 a year. And he was like, well, it's not enough. Like, I know another person doing 70 odd a month and all this kind of thing. So what I'm interested in is, on one hand, we're saying now we're at that period in our life where balance is important and we want more time with the children. On the other hand, we got to go bigger. We got to go better. What drives you now when your basic needs are met and you've got a level of success and you've got staff, you've got clients, you've got a good reputation and a good business? What drives you at this stage to keep on growing?
I think just being the best. I don't even think it's the money. I think it's just being the best. I mean, we do well, but yeah, I think, yeah, just being the best at doing it and absolutely buzzing off the fact that if we're on Google, we're number one on there, or yeah, not even, oh, we make this much money, and it's more we've got here and we've had these awards and things like that. That's what gives me it to think, right, this is why I'm doing it, and it just gives you that boost to just do amazing, I think.
So it's that kind of personal pride in the quality of what you're doing and the impact you're having on other people's lives. And again, such a common theme is it goes beyond money. Money is important, but it's about actually what's the level of impact we're having on other people. Are we considered the best at this service and the value that we bring?
You know what's priceless? Just having someone even on Facebook tagging you in and recommending your business. And that, for me, little things like that and going, go here, they're the best, or it's absolutely priceless, and money cannot buy that. And that's probably why I get up every day, because and get on with it. And it's not obviously about the money. Well, I mean, it is, and it isn't. But for me, well, it's not even about the money. For me, the reason why I work so hard and want to be where I am and have this team is because I just want to be able to get up in the morning and not have to get to my job on time at 8:45 and finish at 5 o'clock and be stuck in rush hour. I want to be able to do what I want during the day and build a dream that I've always dreamt of been built, and having an amazing team that's growing it. And I just look at it and think, wow, I'm so lucky. And then just being able to do what I want during the day. And I think that's why I do it. That's why I work so hard. That's why I want them figures. And do you know what else? I know it sounds silly, but I go to work and I think my staff, I hope anyway, touch wood, but they love what they do. And I love making them love what they do, coming to work and absolutely love the job. Yeah, so I guess that's why, really.
Love it. Love it. So here at Success School, one of my biggest missions for anybody that joins us is it's about educating them on the things that perhaps traditional education didn't really teach us. So I'm interested, as you reflect now, over your life since you've left school and the businesses you've built and becoming a parent and so on, if you was to think about 3 key things you've learned, whether it be about business, whether it be about relationships, parenthood, whether it be about finances, that you just didn't really bloody learn at school, what would they be?
Investing. You obviously credit, which no one taught you that. And then probably networking, really. Something that I guess school did teach you in a way, but didn't teach you the importance of that, having that network around you, having them good people around you. It's not even about who you know, really. It's having them positive people and that them influencing people. I mean, if you're hanging about with kind of idiots, you're going to end up like one, aren't you? And you've got to prioritize who you're around. So and definitely investments. I mean, saving can do bits, but if you're not investing it to triple it, and I guess that's what I did all from the beginning of my business. I just invested, even if I had £100 in my bank, I was investing that into something else to take that chance for it to triple. Obviously I did my research before I invested, but it's and it's grown to be where I've got today. If I didn't take Becky on, our creative director, we wouldn't have got so many sales. She's done absolutely amazing. If I didn't have certain staff in place that did the job better than what I could do, it wouldn't have grown. It would have just never have grown. Definitely investing. Yeah, definitely.
Hannah, thank you so much. If people have really resonated with your story and maybe want to connect on social media, or indeed if they want to learn more about the Houndville and also the doggy treats as well, do you want to just talk a little bit about the doggy treats and a little bit about what your business does and where they can find you online?
Yeah, we do dog walking. We have grooming spas, which I hope to open more in the future across the country. We do dog bakery. We do dog donuts, cupcakes. So we've just got another unit and we're just about to open it into a commercial kitchen and move our small kitchen into this big commercial one. And we want to expand to have like our range and like pets at home and the range and things like that. So yeah, we do all kinds of stuff. Dog donuts, dog birthday cakes.
Are they best to just Google you and that's how they'll find you if they just go on Google?
Yeah, we've got a website, Facebook, Instagram page, the Houndville. So yeah, we're on everywhere, I think.
Amazing. Love it. Hannah, thank you so much. I think just hearing the amount of success you've had in such a short space of time, but most importantly, hearing that came because of the consistent determination, the courage and the dedication to put the hours in, to put the hard work in, but importantly, to have the faith that whatever happens, there is no failure. There's only lessons. There's only learning that in turn just make us stronger. I think that's such an important kind of lesson I've had reiterated tonight, that I hope has maybe inspired or helped anyone listening to this. Just before we move on to the Q&A, final question that I ask all the guests. Hannah, what is your definition of success?
Happiness and financial freedom would be my definition of success. So just being able to, for me personally, have that team there, no matter how large, whether it's 5 or 50 staff members or 10 units or 1 unit, whatever you are comfortable with and happy with. I think just having that bit of team and that little bit of income and that little bit of profit, again, whether it's large or small, being able just to do what you want during the day and have that great team, who's running your business for you. For me personally, that is a success for me, to be able to get up in the morning, do what I want with the kids, or be able to clean my house if I want, or go shopping, or, even just sit and watch telly all day, like whatever you want to do, whatever makes you happy. And again, happiness, you've got to love what you do. You've got to be passionate about it. And that's success. If you're happy with what you do, then why are you not successful, I guess? So yeah, you've got to follow your dreams, haven't you? And again, it's the journey. So just got to take that chance.
Beautiful. Hannah, thank you so much. Thank you. And the episode does not end there. Hannah actually stayed with us for a further 30 plus minutes doing a live Q&A with our members in the Success School community. Here is a little preview of the rest of the chat.
Children, because I'm a mum and I know how bloody difficult it is. It's hard work.
It is very hard.
I'm like around 0 inspirational people physically in the day. I do listen to podcasts. I listen to all kinds of things all the time, motivational stuff all the time, because that literally gets me through. But just generally, when I'm in my job and just in my day-to-day life, I'm like drained of any inspiration. How did you keep yourself going, and who did you have in your life physically to help you and to get you through everything, to sort of keep you going?
I found it relatable, like it's all right having sort of like these millionaires on, but having somebody who is not the start of a process, but like 2 or 3 years in.
Yeah.
It's like watching it actually happening.
So there you go. If you want to listen to the rest of that episode in full, that is available right now in the membership area. When you become a member, you get access to our WhatsApp group, our Facebook group, over 50 training videos, all the previous episodes unedited, including the Q&As. And the really exciting bit is you get to be on our live Zoom coaching calls every month, and all future podcast episodes. I really wanted to make this episode even more engaging and interactive. So that is part of what the membership gives you. You know, when you are a Success School member, you will be invited on every podcast episode to watch the interview live, and then importantly, be able to meet our guests and ask your personal questions direct to them on the Zoom. So if that sounds like something you want to do at the present moment of recording this, if you're listening to this in the future, it might not be the same, but at the moment, I've still got a free trial going for 14 days, which means you can sign up, you can become a member, you can join the WhatsApp group and everything. You can be on the live Zooms completely free of charge. And if after those 2 weeks is up, you think, you know what? I get value out of this community. I want to stay a member of Success School. It is just £19 per month. That is it. That is all the subscription fee is for coaching sessions and everything else that we've mentioned. You know, I really am determined and passionate about trying to make personal development as accessible and as affordable as physically possible. And that is what the Success School membership is all about. If you're not sure if it's right for you, that is why we've got the free trial on, so you can try before you buy. Click the link in the show notes to go and set up your membership profile right now. Just to let you know as well, it will ask you for payment details just to set up a proper account. However, you will not be charged today if the free trial is still running. It will only take the first payment of £19 after you've been in there 2 weeks if you don't cancel. And there's no kind of contract. It is literally something you can cancel at any time if you're not finding it useful. So there you go. It will be a pleasure to welcome you into our community and see you on the next podcast episode with us live, where you get to engage if you think that is something you would like to be a part of. Again, as always, thank you so much for being here. I'd really, really appreciate it if you do think this has been a valuable episode. Please, could you do me a favor and share this out on social media? Let other people know about it. My mission is to help people live happier, healthier, more successful, and more deeply fulfilling lives. And this is a difficult mission when you're doing it as just one person on your own. So I'd really, really appreciate it if you could help me to be able to help other people start to truly help themselves. So thank you so much in advance, anybody that does that. And don't forget, there are new episodes of this podcast every single week. Make sure you do hit that button, the subscribe button, whether that be subscribing to us on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you're listening to us today. Make sure you have got that notification on so you are notified and you don't miss future episodes. But until then, I'm going to leave you with the Jim Rohn quote. He said, traditional education will make you a living, and self-education will make you a fortune. Take care, everybody. I'll see you next time.